You don't need reminding of that. Members are asked to dress appropriately if you want to take your ties, jackets, etc. Off, and make sure you stay properly hydrated, because we certainly don't want to lose anyone in this meeting. So this meeting is being conducted remotely in accordance with the Local Government and Elections Wales Act and the Remote Meetings Protocol agreed by Cabinet, which will operate alongside the Council's standing orders, so to ensure that we continue to take democratic decisions in an open and transparent manner. So I remind you that the meeting is being live streamed to the public, and once again, can I invite you to turn off your cameras and mute your microphones when you're speaking to ensure there's no unnecessary background, or when you're not speaking, sorry. This helps with the video, with the audio and visual quality of the broadcast. The Council's standing orders and code of conduct will apply at all times during this virtual meeting in the same way as ordinary meetings, and members should conduct themselves accordingly. Can I also remind members to ensure their chat function is switched on and to use that facility to indicate to me when they wish to speak on a particular item. Please don't speak until I invite you to do so, and remember to unmute your microphone and switch your camera on. For the benefit of everyone watching on the live stream, when I invite members to cast their votes on any particular item, they will do so electronically using the voting facility in the chat function. The votes will be automatically counted and are recorded on the system, but individual votes are not identified on the screen, and the chat room poll is not available on the live stream for public viewing. However, I will announce the number of votes cast for or against and any abstentions before I declare the result. As well as being broadcast live, a recorded version of this remote meeting will be uploaded onto the Council website for public viewing as soon as possible after the meeting. Welsh translation of the proceedings can be provided upon request. The images and sound recording may also be used for training purposes within the Council. Okay, thank you. So for the first item is apologies from the following councillors. Councillor Debbie Wilcox, Councillor John Guy, Councillor Ray Truman, Councillor Chris Evans, Kevin Whitehead and Richard White. Are there any other apologies for absence, please?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, Holly Townsend, she's not well.
Okay.
And Herbie Thomas, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Yeah, okay, thank you. If members aren't, perhaps members will ensure that if people are unwell, that they, keep an eye on them, particularly during this hot weather. So, are there any declarations of interest at this stage? No, as far as we know. So if any declarations of interest arise during the course of the meeting, then members should draw this to my attention by using the raised hand facility or by posting a message in the chat box. So are there any, there are no announcements from me, but now item 2, the minutes from the 29th of June 2021 are before us. Are there any points of accuracy? No? Yeah? Okay, so therefore I move the minutes as a true record. Is there a seconder, please?
Yes, second, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Jevons. So would all those in favour please indicate by clicking on the voting application in the chat box. So I'll give members a short time to cast their votes. Any voting box yet?
Nothing offering, Mr. Mayor.
No, I haven't got one either. Can you find out where that's gone, please?
It will come through shortly, just one moment.
Excellent, yeah. Okay, thank you. Should be before you. Yeah, has everybody got sight of that now?
Yeah.
Okay, so please cast your vote. Right, so that motion is carried 100%. There's a response in the chat box from Councillor Whitcutt. Could somebody please take account of that? Right, so the number of votes for are 32, with none against and no abstentions. Okay, thank you. So, the approval of the minutes is duly carried. So item 3, appointments. Councillor Harvey to introduce this item, please.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. In addition to the appointments within the report, Cabinet recommended that Sarah Morgan be appointed as the board member for the Strategic Partnership Board of the Welsh Educational Partnership, known as WEPCO Limited.
Okay, thank you. Is there a seconder to the, so the, Councillor Harvey, you're not reading out the appointments, you just,
No, what's in the information pack
yeah,
in front
okay,
of us,
just
Mr.
noting,
Mayor.
that's fine. Councillor Fowler, I understand you're seconding this.
Yes, Mr Mayor, happy to second.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank
So
you both.
would all councillors now please cast their votes by clicking on the appropriate box in the chat function. So when that arrives, please vote. Okay, thank you, members. We have 31 votes with none against and no abstentions. Okay, thank you. So that's duly carried. So the next item is the Treasury Management Report. And I understand the leaders presenting this report.
Yep, thank you, Mr Mayor. Mr Mayor, as I begin this report, can I please draw to your attention that I've received some correspondence from our head of finance, and there is a little bit of confusion around the report that was in the members' packs. I believe the website version is correct, and I've asked for a comprehensive briefing to be made available to members in relation to this. However, my report does relate to the final outturn position, Mr Mayor, and so I'll continue to give the report if that's okay with you.
Yes, fine, thank you.
Thank you very much. So this report, Mr Mayor, fulfils the Council's responsibility to receive and approve an annual Treasury Management Outturn report every year. This report deals with the outturn for 2020-21 and has already been reviewed by both Audit Committee and Cabinet, where no comments were made. The report presents the following information: details of capital financing, borrowing, debt rescheduling and investment transactions. Reports on the risk implications of Treasury decisions and transactions, and details the outturn position on Treasury management transactions in 2020-2021, which confirms compliance with the Treasury limits set by the Council. Now, the COVID pandemic had an impact on Treasury management during 2020-21. Since the early days of the pandemic, the Council had to monitor a significant increase in cash flow activities throughout 2020-21 for the making of business grants and the business grants relief the business rates relief scheme in particular, and also by its own increased costs and lower income level. So this is a completely different situation to the normal situation that we would find ourselves in, Mr Mayor. The Welsh Government provided significant upfront cash flow to support to ensure councils was adequately financed to administer the business rates and business grants scheme, reimbursed the councils throughout the year for their increased costs and reduced income. Alongside the slippage in the delivery of its own capital schemes and underspending on its revenue budget, this meant cash flow was more positive than a normal year, which gave rise to lower borrowing activity and much more short-term investing activities. This does not reduce the need to borrow commitment the Council has, but it does slow down the pace at which that borrowing is taken up towards that commitment level. Notwithstanding the above, in line with the agreed Treasury management strategy, the Council still continued to be both a short-term investor of cash and borrower to manage day-to-day cash flows in 2021. Sorry, Mr Mayor, 2020-21. Turning to borrowing activity, specifically, the financial year was relatively quiet. The Council repaid a short-term loan taken out in March 2020 to specifically cash flow and facilitate early payments of business grants in April, and this was reimbursed by the Welsh Government and the loan repaid as planned in June 2020. In March 2021, the authority undertook borrowing on a short-term basis in order to cover normal day-to-day cash flow activities. Lastly, a minimal amount of new long-term borrowing was required to be taken out in the second half of the financial year, totalling £94,000. The borrowing was from Salix, which was interest-free and linked to a specific energy efficiency project. Whilst the Council has significant long-term borrowing requirements, the Councils continue to follow its current strategy of funding capital expenditure through internal borrowing rather than undertaking new borrowing where it can. It can do this because of its cash-backed reserves, and at the 31st of March 2021, internal borrowing was approximately £107 million, which saves at current interest rate levels around £2.4 million in interest rate costs annually. Current estimates within our cash flow indicates that there is the potential that additional long-term borrowing will be required in the second half of this current financial year to fund the capital programme. And while slippage on that is included in the cash flow forecast, what actually happens in the year in regard of delivery projects will influence this significantly. In particular, the major projects within the Band B education schemes will start the period where no longer term borrowing starts to be taken out. Now, turning to our investing activities, Council strategies in this area of treasury management are to be short-term and relatively low-value investor, consistent with the pursuit of an internal borrowing strategy, and investment priorities should follow the priorities of security, liquidity and yield, in that order. All investments are currently placed on a temporary basis and are placed in high security institutions in line with our other strategy in this area. At the 31st of March 2021, £15 million was placed with various local authorities and £9.8 million with banks and building societies. Lastly, prudential indicators. The authority measures and manages its exposure to Treasury management risks using various indicators which can be found in the report appendices. The report confirms that the Council complied with the prudential indicators for 2020-21 as set in February 2020 as part of the Treasury management strategy. As I said earlier, Mr Mayor, the report has been to the Audit Committee and has been to Cabinet, and now I present the report to full Council for approval. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Okay, thank you very much, Leader. Have we got a seconder for that, please?
Yes, happy to second that, Mr Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Jevons. Are there any comments on the proposal, please? No? Okay, I'm sure if there is any need for clarification of anything after this meeting, then members will be able to, to ask either the Leader or Head of Finance. Okay, so now will members please cast their vote by clicking on the appropriate box in the chat function. I'll give members a short time to cast their votes, please. So we have, if everybody's voting, we have 30 votes for. I think that's what that means. So which is 97% for and 3 against, or 3% against. It doesn't indicate the number of votes against. I'm not sure how many of us are present today. So that motion is carried. Thank you. My report is carried. Right, so we're now on item 5, which is the formation of a regional partnership board. Leader, I understand you're presenting this report.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Mr Mayor, this report is being received by all local authorities in Gwent, and it updates members on the formation of a regional Gwent Public Services Board, and on the next round of the assessment of local wellbeing and local wellbeing plans. Members will be aware of the One Newport Public Services Board, or PSB, and the importance role of this partnership. Now, to date, each local authority in Gwent has had its own PSB. The Wellbeing of Future Generations Act 2015 enables 2 or more public service boards to be able to merge if it would assist them in contributing to the achievement of wellbeing goals. Partners across Gwent recognise the benefits of working together as a region, and building on the existing informal G10 partnership, propose that we work together as one Gwent PSB. This would mean one wellbeing assessment for the region and one wellbeing plan. The footprint of the regional body will better align to a range of existing partnerships in an increasingly complex landscape. The report outlines the arrangements for the formation of a Gwent PSB from September this year. And whilst this is a decision for individual PSBs, there are also changes for Newport City Council as a key partner. Council is asked to note the changes and to approve the necessary governance and constitutional changes to implement these proposed arrangements. The appended report is being presented in each of the 5 local authority areas in the Gwent region. Our One Newport PSB has also been consulted on and agreed the proposed change with effect from September. We'll continue to work closely with our One Newport partners to ensure that our strong local partnership continues, and this will include the ongoing delivery of the current wellbeing plan. We'll also be reviewing the arrangements for local partnership scrutiny, and we'll continue to work with scrutiny members on this important aspect. This will include regional scrutiny for the new PSB, but locally there also remains the task of scrutiny of Newport's partnership work. PSBs across the region have also considered the importance of maintaining the existing strong local partnerships in each area to support delivery of the wellbeing plan and other partnership work. The existing individual wellbeing plans across Gwent will continue to be delivered through local partnerships and will be overseen by the current local scrutiny arrangements until spring 2023. As outlined in the report, the proposals are that the council is, Mr. Mayor. As outlined in the report, the proposals that the council is required to note and approve are the merger of the public service boards and the establishment of a regional Gwent PSB, the proposed governance arrangements in terms of reference for the regional PSB, the development of a single regional wellbeing plan, the establishment of a regional joint scrutiny committee to review and scrutinise the work of the Gwent PSB, and authorisation for the proper officer to make the necessary arrangements to the council's constitution to reflect these changes in governance arrangements and terms of reference. Discussions with partnership scrutiny are ongoing and will continue to ensure that the development of effective local scrutiny for Newport partnership arrangements is maintained. This will include a range of work, including community safety and the ongoing monitoring of the current wellbeing plan. So, Mr. Mayor, the report proposes that Council approve the establishment of a Gwent PSB, a single wellbeing plan, and a regional joint scrutiny committee, and agree the necessary governance and constitutional changes to implement these proposed arrangements in order to deliver the benefits of collaborative working and improve wellbeing outcomes at regional levels, as set out in the annexed common report. Happy to move the report, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Thank you, Leader. Is there a seconder for this, please?
Yes, happy to second that, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Jevons. Now, are there any comments on this proposal, please? No? Again, if there's any clarification required at some time, I'm sure that the Leader would be happy to provide it. So if there aren't any anything on this, hang on, I can't see. I can't see that. I apologise, Councillor Routley. I can't see. So
Councillor Matthew Evans has indicated, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, the chat box isn't coming up on my screen, so perhaps we could find out where that's gone. Councillor Evans, please.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess the question is, how is this really going to benefit Newport? Our needs will be different to Blaenau Gwent's or indeed Monmouthshire's. How is this going to improve the lives of our residents? Will we actually see faster decision making, or is it going to be another talking shop and yet another layer of bureaucracy? As we've just heard, we don't know the exact scrutiny arrangements yet because they haven't been agreed. So yet again, you're asking us to take a decision without knowing these details. Yes, of course, there will be some merits, but I've yet to be convinced and will always put Newport first and cannot support something that will put us in the back seat. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Evans. Are there any, Leader, presumably you have a right to reply to that at the end of this. Are there any other members with questions? No, or observations? I've been reminded this is just a question of yes or no to this. There isn't a chance to make any amendments, even if we feel we could. Okay, thank you, Leader. Would you like to sum up, please, and perhaps try and answer those questions that Councillor Evans put?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Might I just point out, in terms of procedural matters, that it's not a question and answer session, but I'm happy to further comment on the report.
Yeah, I understand that. Thank you. Yeah.
So I'm pleased to present the report to Council. I think this offers significant opportunities, particularly when we reflect on the past 18 months and the experiences that we've had collectively across the region. It should be noted, Mr. Mayor, that the G10 group, so that's public sector partners across the Gwent footprint, already work together very effectively. We've demonstrated this through our response to the COVID pandemic through the Local Resilience Forum. And we've also demonstrated our commitment and certainly our partnership working with the exceptionally successful Test, Trace and Protect programme that we've put in place across the region, which has been managed on a regional basis, and we've provided mutual aid to each of our partners with this as we've gone through this. And I actually think that's a really important and really valid example of how partnership working can benefit the citizens of Newport and the citizens of the Gwent area. And I would emphasise the comparison between the success of the TTP programme that we've implemented here in Gwent with the scandal of the investment in the English context, which hasn't been through local authorities working in partnership, has cost the taxpayer millions of pounds and hasn't been effective. So I think we've got a really good example there of where partnership working across Gwent has been beneficial for the citizens of Newport. I would add that our colleagues in Torvine, so fellow members in Torvine, have already approved this report, and the report goes to Caerphilly next week. I understand that Monmouthshire have already approved this, and that Blaenau Gwent are yet to approve it. So in terms of our partnership working, I think we've got a really firm base with which to take this forward. And I would also point out, Mr. Mayor, that there are still some statutory requirements around our partnership working here in Newport that we will continue to maintain. Furthermore, we'll continue to maintain our work as a One Newport partnership through the Newport offer. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Leader. Now, members are invited to vote. Could we please have the voting app up, please? Thank you. It should be in front of everyone now. Are we all okay? So members, now please vote. Okay, if members still ticking up there. Okay, if everyone has voted, we have 74% for, 20% against, and 6% abstention. So it's extensions then, which is 35 votes. Okay, so that is carried. Thank you very much. Okay, so that's done. Now questions to the move to open questions to the Leader of the Council. Questions will be asked in the ballot list order sent out earlier today. Before we start, does the Leader have any announcements to make?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, I'm pleased to share with members that Newport City Council has submitted a bid, an expression of interest to become the UK City of Culture 2025. As a council, we're committed to ensuring that people feel good about living, working, visiting and investing in our city. We look to seize all opportunities to promote confidence and pride within our communities, as well as showcase Newport to the wider world. And as you all know, Newport is a city with a proud cultural tradition and heritage. And when thinking of our heritage and cultural offering, our transporter bridge is certainly a shining example. So I'm particularly pleased to report that we've secured an additional £80,000 grant from the Wolfson Foundation to help fund the Transporter Bridge Transformation Project. The grant complements the previous £8.75 million awarded by the National Lottery Heritage Fund, the £1.5 million from Welsh Government and the £1 million capital funding that the Council is also committed to the project. We're very pleased that the Foundation recognised the cultural and historical significance of the Transporter Bridge, and that the transformation project will bring this significance to life through improved public access and engagement. And Mr. Mayor, I'm very pleased to report that our Household Waste Recycling Centre has been shortlisted for a national award. It's one of only 3 centres across the UK and the only one from Wales shortlisted for the Civic Amenity Site of the Year award at this year's Awards for Excellence in Recycling and Waste Management. It's been an incredibly busy year for the centre, which has benefited from a refreshed layout, improved waste separation measures and a new booking system. These changes have contributed to an increase in the recycling rate at the centre from 65% in 2019-20 to over 90% for 2020-21. The winners will be announced tomorrow, so can we wish the team the very best of luck and fingers crossed for a much deserved win. I'd like to mention the vaccine take-up and sessions, Mr. Mayor, if I may. And as the easing of restrictions continues over the coming weeks, we're encouraging our residents to take up the opportunity to have their vaccination and ensure that they get their second jab. Take-up across the area has been excellent. In the Aneurin Bevan area, 88% of the adult population have had their first dose, and second doses are progressing well, with 90% of over 40s being fully vaccinated. Our walk-in sessions have also had excellent attendance and certainly helped boost these figures. I'd really like to thank everybody who's helped to spread the message within our communities, and in particular for working with those who may be reluctant or concerned. Now, another walk-in session will take place this coming Sunday at the Newport Centre between 2 and 6 p.m. And colleagues, your help once again would be very much appreciated in sharing this information and encouraging those people who are not vaccinated to come forward and participate. I'd like to provide you with an update on the LDP. As we've previously discussed, we've launched the start of the development of our new local development plan, and work is well underway on the replacement. It will determine how our city will look and be developed over the next 15 years. The LDP looks at how land should be used, what roads, paths and cycleways there should be, the use of parks and green spaces, and ensuring there's enough space for businesses as well as protecting the environment. This latest stage of consultation runs until 27th of August, and landowners, stakeholder organisations and local communities have got the opportunity to submit potential candidate sites for inclusion in the replacement LDP. Submissions can be made for a wide variety of uses, for example, housing, employment, retail, tourism, green infrastructure, recreation and renewable energy. And I'm sure colleagues may be aware of people who would like to submit candidate sites. So if you are aware of any interested parties that would like to do that and have their say at this stage of the process, please do so. Now, there are There is something else that I would like to mention here, Mr. Mayor, and that is really one of the strengths of Newport. And I firmly believe, Mr. Mayor, that our people are our strength. Across the city, we have such shining examples of such tremendous people. Now, I'd like to highlight to colleagues today the role of our foster carers. We've got a number of foster carers who have actually fostered for many years for us, and each of them have fostered over 100 children. I can't tell you what a fantastic commitment this is from people who take children into their homes and nurture them and support their development and give them the security they need at very difficult times in their lives. And I'd really like to take this opportunity to publicly thank those families who've done this, Mr. Mayor, because I think that really shows outstanding commitment. Now, as a special thank you to our long-serving foster carers, we've actually worked with a company and we've named a rose which we would like to send to them as a special thank you, and the rose is named Foster with Love. And that is a gift to our special foster carers from everybody here at Newport City Council as a real tribute to the work they've done for us for many years. And I hope those shrubs flourish in the gardens with the care. If the care is anything as great as the care that has been shown to our children, then I'm sure that they will. And on the subject of our outstanding strengths here as a city, I'd also like to say a public thank you to Joel Hughes from Killian. Now, some of you may be aware of Joel Hughes, but Joel is just a citizen who was quite concerned and taken aback by some of the negative comments on Twitter following one of the European football matches. And he subsequently set up a Just Giving site to support a young girl who was very distressed at the team losing at the match. I'm really pleased to say that they were able to find that German family, and they want the money to be donated to UNICEF. Now, that one gesture, that simple gesture of kindness, which sought to address and put right that negativity and unpleasantness, is an absolutely outstanding gesture by a citizen of Newport. And again, Mr. Mayor, that makes me so very proud in the strengths of our people here in Newport. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Leader. Right, so now we move on to open questions to the Leader. The first person I have in front of me is Councillor Matthew Evans.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and well done, Joel. And can I also congratulate all the foster carers and the amazing job they do. It might be a good idea to reinstate the Extra Mile Awards we used to have for citizens, which was a huge success. Mr. Mayor, my question to the Leader of the Council is as follows. After a recent visit to the city centre, I was shocked to see how deserted it was. I appreciate we're still in partial lockdown, but it was really concerning. One of the main concerns I keep hearing about is the nighttime economy, once thriving, but now clinging by a thread. This downfall started long before COVID, and it can in part be attributed to this disgraceful way Newport has been treated by the University of South Wales. Happy to take on money for the new build and to sell off both the Altarine and Killian sites, but unwilling, it would appear, to keep their promises of increased student numbers. We've become a poor man's Pontypridd. Secondly, we don't have any national nightclub operators, and haven't, I don't believe, since Mecca had Tiffany's. I personally run some of the private venues, has been caught up in controversy, and this has got to be a further concern. So do you agree with me that radical action needs to be taken to address these issues? Would you consider approaching maybe a national nightclub operator and also a casino operator? And what can you do, and have you been doing, to ensure the university takes Newport more seriously? Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Leader.
Which one of those questions would you like me to answer? They're different topics. Which one?
Well,
Would you
actually,
like
no, they're combined, because we're talking about the nighttime economy, and the lack of students in the city affects the nighttime economy. So the casino operator would also help boost the nighttime economy, and so would a national nightclub operator. So actually, they're all combined. So it's a suggestion of measures. Would you support them? Have you been dealing with the university to see how we can get more students into the city centre? Because that's actually part of the whole. You know, it's one question really. Sorry, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Matthew. Leader.
Well, thank you for that clarification. I would like to start by really highlighting our relationship with the University of South Wales. We've got a very positive and constructive working relationship with the University of South Wales, and I'm sure you'll be aware that lots of their cyber and digital related activities are based here in Newport. And here in Newport, they also offer very strong support for startup companies. And for us, that's really important, because that actually aligns to some of the other businesses that we've got here. So they're located next to the Alacrity building, where we've also got startup companies. And as you'll be aware, we've got the National Software Academy in the information station. So in terms of the role that they play in relation to the economic growth and knowledge transfer within the city, we've got a really positive and constructive relationship. And they also form part of our public service board and the Newport Economic Network. So as the world has changed and the focus of universities has changed, there's a real opportunity to grow and develop the cyber offering here in Newport. And that's exactly what we're doing. And the University of South Wales is one of our partners in doing that. So I should make it very clear that we are working very constructively with them. Now, I'm not quite sure when it would be that the leader of the opposition visited the city centre, but certainly the feedback that I have from operators within the city centre is that they're actually seizing new opportunities with outdoor seating to develop new offers, new branding, and the nighttime economy is actually starting to recover from the impact of the pandemic. Now, we do understand that the question relates to the pre-pandemic period, but as we've said throughout this, when we've looked at our recovery strategy, there are real opportunities here, and certainly I see one of those opportunities in terms of the recovery of the nighttime economy. Members may be aware that the Queen's Hotel has recently changed hands, and there will be the launch of a new exclusive nightclub, members club in those premises. I certainly can't comment on a casino because each case, as you're well aware, is taken on merit, and certainly the planners would look at that. So that's my response.
Thank you, Leader.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I mean, I'm sure the leader of the council will admit that student numbers have dropped dramatically, and whilst we welcome some of the initiatives they have in the city, it's a very sad sight to see that, like, student accommodation block, where they were advertising people from Bristol to come over there because we couldn't fill it with local students. So clearly that has got to be an issue, and I hope we recognise this in the strongest possible terms. The student numbers have dwindled radically, and that does affect the nighttime economy. I think you'll also recall, but back in 2017, the council proudly announced the cabinet they were going to sign up to the purple flag status for the nighttime economy. Now, I appreciate at the moment, I mean, nightclubs can't even open in Wales, as I'm sure you're aware, so it's no point in asking them and relaunching it now. But again, that was 5 years ago, and that was a promise. I think it was Councillor Bob Poole at the time said the cabinet were going to do that and get it sorted. But reality is it didn't happen before the pandemic. So I hope it's another thing you can actually look at. And as far as the casino go, I mean, all I'm saying is, you know, we need to look at some radical solutions. And whilst something like a private members club might be good, we have things like the International Convention Centre and the Celtic Manor Hotel. Those visitors are going to go to Cardiff or Bristol, which have casinos, if they don't come to Newport. So I'm really saying this is an ideal opportunity to start thinking outside the box and look at encouraging a major casino thing to come into the city, because otherwise more and more people are going to leave and go to Cardiff or Bristol. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Evans. Now, the next question would be, sorry, so do you wish to respond to that, Leader? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, fine, sorry.
Okay. So thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Evans, for your statement. So, as I mentioned in my response to the original question, we do work well with University of South Wales, and they have got a focus of a key number of their activities, their scientific disciplines, and certainly business disciplines here in Newport. There is a focus on entrepreneurialism and startup companies and development, and this really matches the focus of our city, because our focus is on growth, and our focus is on growth for a thriving city for everybody here. Now, in terms of student numbers, I know that you mentioned the University of South Wales, but we can't take this question in isolation, and we really must take into account Coleg Gwent moving into the city centre and the increased footfall there from the number of students that will be studying there, because it should be noted, Mr. Mayor, that actually students who are studying at further education colleges are not necessarily all aged between 16 and 18. Further education colleges attract a wide range of students, and actually the relocation of College Gwent into Newport city centre will bring us around 2,000 students into that city centre area. So I do need to be clear about that, Mr. Mayor, and I think it's really important to point that out. But in terms of opportunities for growth and in terms of attractions for visitor numbers, I think it really depends what you want to focus on, whether that's putting people's financial and mental well-being at risk by allowing a casino to come and encouraging gambling, or whether a thriving city and a thriving nighttime economy is about encouraging grassroots activity. On Saturday afternoon alone, there was a stage in High Street where a band were performing, and High Street was absolutely buzzing. So I urge you once again, Councillor Evans, to look across the city and actually talk to some of the representatives there, talk to some of the businesses and ask them about their ideas, because certainly all of our cultural businesses and creative partners that I've spoken to in terms of developing our bid for the City of Culture all indicate to me a Newport that will thrive and will thrive organically without the need for major companies to come in and exploit people. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Leader. Thank you, Councillor Evans. Now, the second question would be from Councillor Kevin Whitehead. He obviously isn't with us. Has he nominated a colleague to ask a question in his absence?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. No, unfortunately, Kevin's he's been stuck on a course over the last few days, and he was supposed to send me a message, I think he was, for a question, but he said he'll send it to the leader by email if possible.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Jordan. Now, Councillor Carmel Townsend is next. Councillor Townsend, are you there?
Yeah, sorry, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right.
Yeah, Leader, as part of the recent Levelling Up Fund application, could you confirm what other potential schemes were looked at before it went to Cabinet?
Thank you very much, Councillor Townsend. Mr. Mayor, our master plan for the city centre really provided us with the framework for this. So in terms of the criteria for levelling up, there's certain criteria that we had to look at, and that included physical regeneration schemes. So what guided the decision for the application was actually the master plan that was in place, the financial limits within the Levelling Up Fund, and what we could really reasonably achieve within the time frame that we're expected to achieve it, because there is a time constraint within implementing any actions from successful bids. So within that, we considered our master plan and where we could most effectively achieve what I might describe as a multiplier effect, Mr. Mayor, certainly with the investment that we should see within the city centre in relation to active travel, following on from the South East Wales Transport Commission, and that is why we highlighted that area. We looked at the master plan, which is our blueprint for the city centre area, and we decided that that was the best area to request levelling up funding for in relation to the frameworks that the application is based upon. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Councillor Townsend, are you happy with that?
Yes and no, but I won't follow it up, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Next is number 4, Councillor Yvonne Forsey, please.
Hello, thank you, Mr. Mayor. The leader mentioned Newport City Council's bid for the City of Culture 2025. Can the leader tell members more about the organisations involved and the range of events that are planned?
Thank you, Councillor Forsey. Mr. Mayor, the opportunity to bid to become the UK City of Culture 2025 is something that we've grasped. We were encouraged to do so by the Secretary of State for Wales, and this offers a real opportunity. Now, in terms of the application itself, this is the first time that the UK government have allowed the city or the applicant to consider this on a broader basis, on a broader geographical basis. So whilst Newport City Council leads this bid, we are moving forwards with a footprint that's the Gwent footprint. And we do so because of the richness of our history, our culture and our heritage here across Gwent. Our key partners then, our partner organisations in relation to this, are the 4 other Gwent local authorities, which is yet another example of our excellent partnership working across the region. Other partners include the University, Coleg Gwent, the Newport Now bid, Friars Walk, and something I'm really proud of is a lot of our creative companies, Screen Alliance Wales are our partners with this, and some of our freelance companies as well. So we're working with companies like Opera Sonic, a huge range of partners, because we recognise that actually when it comes to this type of activity, this is very much a collective and a collaborative effort across the whole of the region to enable us to actually achieve all the benefits that we can, not just from cultural enrichment, but also the economic benefits that come from regeneration. Now, the focus of this is actually our future.
Yeah,
Shall I just finish that, Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, just to say, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Just say we are at the end of the time, but obviously I want you to finish your response to that. So we'll allow that to go. We'll allow that to go forward if that's okay with you. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. That's very kind of you, Mr. Mayor. I do appreciate it. So our focus is really looking to the future. So we know that our history and our heritage is inextricably linked. Our move from heavy industry, but to the industry of the future. And we're looking at how we can embed data and technology to do that. But what's really important about this, and I think it really needs to be emphasised, is the role of individuals and communities within this. And we're working with organisations that work with children in communities to actually develop a programme of events and support for this. For example, Opera Sonic are working with children from Roma Gypsy traveller families in Maindy and Lisweri, using music and song to unite and build community cohesion. And Ballet Cymru have done some excellent work with children in Somerton through the National Duets project. We want this to continue. We want to grow this and ensure that we can take our culture and a creative community out to our communities and enable people in communities to engage with this and really give us a sound platform to move forwards in the future. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Leader. Now, as I've just mentioned, we've come to the end of our time with this. So the councillors that would have asked questions, Councillor Routley, Councillor Trevor Watkins, Councillor Joan Watkins, are invited to submit their questions to the Leader as written questions, or of course bring them up again at any time in future meetings. Thank you very much. Right, so item 7 now is so the time limit for questions to each cabinet member is 10 minutes. So Councillor Watkins, your question to the cabinet member, please. As I'm sure you're aware, the question must be read out exactly as submitted, and the time limit for asking the question is 2 minutes. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Watkins.
So, Mr. Mayor, Councillor Truman is not present, so it'll have to be a written reply.
Yes, so I'm sorry, Gareth, I forgot that. As it said at the beginning of the meeting, Ray Truman isn't well, Joan. So perhaps if you could accept a written question, a written answer to that question.
Mr. Mayor, just for clarification, yes, of course, I will accept a written response to my question to Councillor Truman, but I understood my first question was to the cabinet member with responsibility for street scene.
We have here question 1 is for the cabinet member for licensing and regulation. That was what your question was under. Is that not correct?
No, I have a question with regard to
you have another.
It would be street scene, the cabinet member. And then I also put a question in with regard to parking. I was advised that that was operational and had been transferred over to officers. So I had 3 questions in place, one of which has become operational and one of which is in respect of Councillor Truman's absence. And the other one, which I understood to be the first one I would be asking, was with regard to, I believe, Councillor Jevons, as he heads up street scene.
Well,
Mr. Mayor, the questions are listed in the order of the cabinet member portfolios, so that's why Councillor Truman's question is listed first. Yeah, like I said, that was the first question on the agenda. He's not present at the meeting, so it will have to be a written reply.
I am accepting of that, Mr. Mayor. But am I then allowed to ask the question that I put in to the cabinet member with responsibility for street scene?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, when that comes up in the order of questions listed in the agenda.
Yeah, we have that in front of us, Councillor Watkins. So we now move on to a question to the Deputy Leader, Cabinet Member, City Services, which is Councillor Jevons, from Councillor Mogford.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can you hear me?
Just could you hold on a minute, Ray? The forms popped up again on my screen. So any idea why that should be? Is everybody got that? Or is that just me? Right, no, it's gone with me. If anybody report if you get anything similar. Sorry, Councillor Mogford, would you please ask your question now?
I will indeed. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My question is on road safety and Newport City Council's plans to roll out further 20-mile-an-hour restrictions on our roads. On the 7th of May 2019, the First Minister in the Senate, Mark Drakeford, said, "We know that 20-mile-an-hour zones reduce speed of traffic, reduce accidents, particularly accidents to children, and we want to see that become the default position right across Wales." No doubt he was not the first person to utter these words of wisdom about the dangers associated with speed in traffic. In the Langstone ward, we have been seeking such speed reductions for years. Could the Cabinet member update the Council on the rollout of 20-mile-an-hour zones in Newport and clarify what local consultation is being planned to support any decisions taken locally? Does the Cabinet member consider that roads and school entrances regularly used by children should be amongst the highest priority for imposing speed limits? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mogford. Councillor Jevons to respond now, please.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Welsh Government has recently announced that the rollout of 20-mile-an-hour speed limits will form part of its initial programme of work. This is a national policy change, and as such, consultation is being led by Welsh Government. This was launched last week and can be found on the Welsh Government website. Local consultation is held through the statutory traffic regulatory orders process. Newport has already rolled out trial areas across the city and awaiting the detailed guidance from Welsh Government to conclude the full rollout. The current and anticipated timeline for completion is 18 months. Safety at schools will continue to be a priority for both Welsh Government and Newport City Council under this legislative change. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Jevons. Councillor Mogford, do you have a supplementary question?
Yes, I do, and I'd just like to go back to the schools. On a previous question, I think last year or the year before that I raised at full council, it was stated that over half of our schools have a speed limit greater than 20 miles an hour outside of them. Again, would the Cabinet member be able to give us an assurance that Langstone School will be focused on in terms of reducing the speed limit down to 20 miles an hour? And as the Cabinet member has just said, this is within the gift of Newport City Council to do this.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. The member will be aware that the Langstone Primary School learner entrance is already traffic calmed and covered by an existing 20-mile-an-hour zone as part of the previous Welsh Government initiative to improve safety at schools, and the other two entrances are off-road. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Jevons.
Could I just say that
no, there's just one supplementary, Mr. Mayor.
Just one. Thank you, Councillor.
I wasn't going to ask a question. I was just going to say that what the Cabinet member said.
Order, Mr. Mayor. I don't think there's any right to come back with any comments.
What is this, Mr. Mayor? Can
I think
Councillor ask what his point of order is?
I think
the
that
point of information.
Could we just realise the Mayor's in charge of the meeting, please, and not everybody jumping down? So what I think now, we need, Councillor Spencer indicated he had a point of order, I think, and perhaps Councillor Majid Rahman as well. I've missed that one. So could you please indicate what the point of order is?
Yeah, sure, Mr. Mayor. Point of order 4.3. I'm happy to send you a copy of the standing orders if you like, Mr. Mayor. And
to be honest, just Councillor Rahman, that would be called having a laugh at the Mayor, and I don't think that was appropriate. I asked you for your point of order. You don't need to send it to me. You just have to repeat to me what that point of order is.
You misunderstood me, Mr. Mayor. I'm not having a laugh. I'm just pointing out I got a copy of the standing orders and I pointed out. But Councillor Outley, I'm happy to send him a copy if he likes as well.
I think
I have them here, Mr. Mayor, under section 410 of the standing orders.
So, Mr. Mayor, are we having a debate now?
Offensive to actually
Rahman,
we have children that are being dicing with their lives on the
there is just a point of order.
It's not appropriate that you obviously this has stirred strong passions amongst members. We need to get back to the original question: is what was the point of order that members referred to?
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, can I come in, please, Councillor Spencer?
Yes, you were the first raised point of order. Could you indicate what that point of order was, please?
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor, but just for clarification first, can we just jump in, or do we have to come up on the screen?
No, I think, although, as I indicated earlier on, the chat box is not coming up to me, so I'm not sure what order people are asking questions in. I would ask people to ask the questions one at a time, to be respectful of each other, please, and to try to, as far as possible, to seek clarifications on the questions that various members have asked, and to try to move this meeting forward in a constructive way. I think that's the best way of describing it.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for that. But my point of order was that the member had asked a question and then came back, as it was said by Councillor Rahman, that that isn't allowed. Thank you.
Yeah, that is fine, Councillor Spencer. That was my understanding, but I will now always want members to refer to the particular point of order they're discussing, because otherwise, you know, we really won't know where we are, and people just say point of order and don't really have a clue about what they're talking about, to be honest with you. Sorry about that. Councillor,
Mr. Mayor, before you carry on, I was just seeking a clarification to the answer. I don't know if I heard the answer correctly from Councillor Jevons.
Okay.
He said that one of the roads, one of the entrances was off road. I was just trying to seek clarification on that.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Jevons, have you got, can you clarify that now, or would you like to send Councillor Mogford your understanding of the situation in and around Langstone Primary?
I'll provide him with a written answer, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
Just to save time, thank you.
Councillor Mogford, if that's okay with you, then we can now.
Perfect, Mr. Mayor, thank you.
Thank you very much. Chief Executive, Beverly Owen.
Mayor, can I just please remind all members that the Mayor is in the chair, and that when the monitoring officer interjects on process, that is adhered to, please. This is a public meeting and we just need to ensure that due process is followed. So there is a time limit, obviously, on Cabinet member questions, and there is one question and a supplementary to be followed. And I'm sure, obviously, that Mr. Mayor, you know, will follow that process. So let's not get into a debate this evening of points of order. Can we just now continue the meeting? One question, supplementary, and I'm sure Anne and Gareth will interject at the point that the time is up. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, thank you, Beverly. That was what I was trying to arrive at earlier on. Right, so now we have a question from Councillor Joan Watkins again to the Cabinet Member for Sustainable Development. Obviously, it must be read out exactly as written, Councillor Watkins, and time limit for asking that questions is 2 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Some councils across the UK are installing plant carpets on the top of bus shelters to support the bee population. Given this city's commitment to support an increase in the declining bee population, a matter which is very serious, a serious matter for concern, will the Cabinet member commit to installing of these plant carpets across Newport as a matter of urgency? Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Watkins. Councillor Jason Hughes, now to answer that question, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Watkins. Reversing biodiversity decline is a fundamental priority for this administration, and I'm happy to confirm that we have already allocated funding for a number of friendly bee bus shelters, which will be installed later this year. Such shelters are not suitable, however, everywhere, and many of our new bus shelters will be installed with solar power panels installed to support the council's carbon reduction plan. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Hughes. Councillor Watkins, you have a supplementary question.
I do indeed.
Thank you.
I refer to Councillor Hughes' comment later this year. Given that we are in the summer period, where we are likely to see bees needing this kind of support, what does he mean by later this year? Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Can I come in there?
Yeah, of course you can.
Sorry, Mayor. Obviously, Councillor Watkins, we're in a position where these bus shelters will have to, work will have to be undertaken. Our policy this year has been, as you all know, certainly in your own ward, has been focused in our bee policies towards the mowing of grass and all that situation. But the reality for us is that we have bought these new bus shelters and they will be installed as soon as we're able to do that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Watkins. Perhaps I'd ask you to keep in touch with Councillor Hughes as to the progress of the rollout of these bus shelters.
I'm happy to do it.
Yeah, thank you. Right, so question 4 now is from Councillor Matthew Evans. Your question to the Cabinet member, please. I know I'm repeating myself. The question must be read out exactly as submitted. Time limit for asking that question is 2 minutes. Thank you, Councillor Evans.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At the last council meeting, you were asked by Councillor Charles Ferris, when did you last have a meeting with the National Trust? In your reply, you stated there were no formal requirements under the lease to do so, but you didn't state the last time you met with them. So please, can you inform us how many times have you met with them regarding Tredegar House since you became Cabinet Member? And can you also tell us if you believe the transfer of Tredegar House to the National Trust was the right decision to make? Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Harvey, please.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Evans. I'm really sorry, but I'm unable to confirm the exact number of times that I have met with the National Trust, but suffice to say I've always accepted the invitation to meet. The last time was with your deputy, Councillor Billy Routley, but the COVID-19 pandemic has interrupted such meetings, but as restrictions are easing, then I look forward to meeting them again, obviously. In respect to my view on the transfer of the site to the National Trust, I was neither Cabinet Member or an elected member at that time. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Harvey. Councillor Evans, do you have a supplementary question to that, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You know, I appreciate you wouldn't know the exact amount of times you've been there, but I was hoping for a bit more information about, you know, the relationship you've had with them since you became Cabinet Member. And I think last time you did mention that you seemed to be a little bit scathing about, you said you inherited this big debt. So I just wanted to inform her, I appreciate that actually the debt went back a lot further than our administration to previous administration. So I think you'll find that the debts inherited was something which would needed to have been spent the money on Tredegar House in any case. And actually the arrangement with Tredegar House has been phenomenally successful. And I think you'll find that, you know, visitor numbers trebled. So, you know, I don't really need any further information. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Evans. Do you wish to respond, Councillor Harvey?
Can I just come in on a point of order?
I'm speaking to the leader of the opposition. Point of order, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Routley, please. It's not appropriate at the moment.
Okay, no problem. But you are misleading council, and we will speak again.
Yeah, right.
Beg your pardon.
Thank you. No, please, no, not. We've done very well up until now.
I'm really sorry, Mr. Mayor.
Well, I know. Must grow thick and skin.
Councillors, please respect.
Are reminded that the Mayor is in charge of the meeting and asked to be respectful to one another. If you have a disagreement, this is a hostage to fortune. I know, take it up outside the virtual chamber, but please ask questions in a written form to the Cabinet Member. If there are other if there are issues that you disagree with, please respond to the Cabinet Member in the appropriate way. Councillor Harvey, do you wish to respond to Councillor Evans, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was just querying whether there was a question in what Councillor Evans had said.
Well, I think there was.
Well, it was more of a statement than a question, Mr. Mayor, so I would move on.
Heaven forbid the councillors make statements, not ask questions.
If you'd like me to finish it with you, do you agree, Mr. Mayor, then I'm happy to do that.
Thank you very much, Councillor Evans. Now I believe now we are nearly at the end of the process. I was going to say ordeal, but it hasn't been an ordeal. There are just a couple of things which I should have said at the beginning, really, is that we do seem to be getting more mayoral functions and invites to meetings, etc. Members are reminded they can invite the Mayor to anything they want to in their ward. If they wish to speak to the Mayor's office, I'll see if we can accommodate that, but I'm sure we will. We'd love to get around parts of the city where perhaps I wouldn't normally go to. And also in particular, I note we may be able to help with the issue of promoting and celebrating foster carers. I think I'd love to do that. And whether or not we're successful, I'm sure that a mayoral visit to our waste recycling centre will generate some useful publicity for the excellent work that we're doing in Newport. So if there isn't anything else now, we haven't got an AOB, but if there's anything else that we need to do, we'll do it. Otherwise, sorry, thank you, Councillor Harvey. Yes.
Can I just add that Councillor Davis has been put back onto St Julian's. It's St Julian's Primary, not St Julian's High School. That's okay. Just one typo.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, right. So we did quite well most of the time. Did get a little unruly at the end there, but I'm sure that we are moving in the right direction with it. So if there's no further business, I will close the meeting at nearly 6:10. Okay.
May I say something?
Hold on, yeah. Wait a minute. Yes, Tom would like to say something, I think. Yes,
sorry.
Thank you. Please, all councillors, remember to respect the mayor. And some of you are not doing that. Please do it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I rarely if ever take things personally, Tom, but that's a point well made, because really it isn't about the mayor. It's actually been trying to hold a meeting in a constructive way, and unfortunately, sometimes people let their enthusiasm get carried away, and then it gets a little bit out of order for a while. So thank you all for that. So if there's anything else, any other observations? No.
Enjoy the evening, Mr. Mayor. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Right. I'll hold that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Enjoy the sun, put plenty of sunscreen on and drink plenty of water. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you. Bye.